Today, we are going to talk about something that most of us, let's be honest, try to avoid at all costs: being wrong. We're going to dive into some fascinating ideas from Kathryn Schulz, who explores why we get the experience of error so, well, wrong, and why learning to embrace it might be one of the most important things we can do. So let's get into it. Okay, first things first. Just take a look at this symbol. No context, nothing else on the screen. What do you think that is? What does it represent? Go ahead and lock in your answer. So, what if I told you that for thousands of miles on a road trip, Kathryn Schulz was absolutely 100% convinced that this was some kind of Chinese character? She kept seeing it on signs, totally baffled. She was certain. And she was, of course, completely wrong. It's just the symbol for a picnic area. And that story gets right to the heart of it. For those entire 2,000 miles, the actual experience of being wrong felt exactly like the experience of being right. There wasn't an alarm bell going off in our head, no little warning light. You see, we all walk around in this little bubble where we feel right about pretty much everything. And that's where the trouble really starts. So why? Why do we get so trapped in that bubble of rightness? Well, let's break down the anatomy of error and look at the two big reasons we get stuck feeling right, even when we're anything but. Now, this is a really crucial distinction. If I ask you, what does it feel like to be wrong? You'd probably say something like, oh, it's awful, or it's so embarrassing. But that's not actually the feeling of being wrong. That's the feeling of realizing you're wrong. The actual state of being wrong in the moment feels like nothing. It feels just like being right. And this brings us to a concept Schulz calls error blindness. It's just a structural part of being human. We literally do not have an internal sense that tingles when our beliefs don't line up with reality. We are basically wired to feel confident and correct, right up to the very second everything falls apart. You know the perfect way to picture this? Think about Wile E. Coyote in the old Looney Tunes cartoons. He runs straight off a cliff after the Roadrunner, but he doesn't fall. Not yet. He just keeps running on thin air, totally fine, until the moment he looks down and realizes there's nothing there. That is what error blindness feels like. You feel like you're on solid ground, even when you're hanging in midair. So our own brains have this massive blind spot. That's problem number one. But it's only half the story. On top of that, we have this huge cultural pressure that teaches us from a very young age to be terrified of being wrong. And it all starts in a place we're all very familiar with: school. Just think about it, right? In school, what happens when you get an answer wrong? You get a big red X. The kids who get things wrong are seen as the ones who didn't study, the lazy ones, the ones who aren't that smart. We quickly learn to equate making a mistake with being a mistake. So to feel intelligent and responsible, we learn to just dig in our heels and insist that we're right, no matter what. Okay, so let's see what happens when this attachment to being right scales up. Because it's not just a cute personal quirk. It has really serious real-world consequences. Take this story, which is just wow. It's from one of the best hospitals in the US. A patient goes in for a major surgery on one of her legs. The surgeon does the procedure. Everything seems to go fine, until the patient wakes up in recovery and realizes they operated on the wrong leg. And this was the hospital's official explanation. Chilling, right? The surgeon wasn't a bad person. He wasn't incompetent. He just felt he was right. He trusted that powerful internal feeling of certainty over all the checklists and procedures, and it led to an absolute catastrophe. That feeling is not a reliable guide to the truth. And this attachment to feeling right goes way beyond just practical mistakes. It actually poisons how we talk to each other. It completely dictates how we see and treat people who dare to disagree with us. Think about it. When we are absolutely certain we're right, we assume our beliefs are just a perfect reflection of reality. So if someone disagrees with us, we go down this very predictable and very destructive path. First, we figure they must be ignorant. If only they knew what I knew. When that doesn't work, we move to step two. They must be idiots. They have the facts, but they're just too dumb to get it. And finally, if they seem smart and informed, well then there's only one possibility left. They must be evil. They know the truth, and they're twisting it for their own terrible reasons. And you can see how this just destroys any chance of real conversation. All right, so that's all pretty bleak, but what's the alternative? How do we get out of this trap? Well, it starts by completely changing our whole relationship with the idea of error. We've all heard this one, right? René Descartes. It's the ultimate statement of certainty. our entire existence is grounded in the fact that we can think, that we can be right about ourselves. But get this, more than 1,000 years before Descartes, St. Augustine came up with a different idea. I err, therefore I am. He saw that our ability to make mistakes isn't some flaw to be fixed. It's actually fundamental to what makes us us. You see, our ability to be wrong is really a byproduct of our greatest superpower. The miracle of the human mind isn't just that it can see the world as it is. The truly amazing part is that it can see the world as it isn't. We can imagine, we can create, we can dream up new possibilities. And that exact same power that lets us invent and innovate is also what lets us get things wrong. So let's tie this all together. What happens if we actually accept that we're fallible? It turns out we can unlock a much more curious, creative, and wonder-filled way of being in the world. Ira Glass, the host of the radio show This American Life, once said that basically every single story they tell has that one secret theme. And as an audience, we love it, don't we? We love stories with a good plot twist. We love being surprised. When it comes to our entertainment, we love being proven wrong. And why do we love those stories so much? Because that's what our own lives are actually like. We're constantly making plans, and then the world surprises us. Presidents think an invasion will go one way, and something else happens. Dictators think they'll rule forever, and something else happens. We think we're going to marry our high school sweetheart, and something else happens instead. This is just the fundamental texture of life. So I want to leave you with this last thought. This idea of rediscovering wonder, it's so powerful. But what if real wonder isn't found in the feeling of being right? What if it's found in the moment we step outside of that tiny, terrified space of certainty, look out at the incredible, baffling universe, and find the courage to just say, wow, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.